The stupidity of Ubisoft seems to have no fucking bounds, and I'm dead fucking serious when I say this has to be one of the dumbest statements I've ever heard. This statement was so stupid that my brain exploded. A fuckwit called Nicholas Guerin said that games look and play better at 30 FPS as opposed to 60 FPS, and that 60 FPS looks weird. Yeah, I know. That's what he said. It's ridiculous. Before we start, just know that if you leave a comment calling me a PC elitist because I think 60 FPS should be a standard in all video games, go fuck yourself. This is what the guy had to say. At Ubisoft for a long time, we wanted to push 60 FPS. I don't think it was a good idea because you don't gain that much from 60 FPS and it doesn't look like the real thing. Ah, Jesus fucking Christ. It's a bit like The Hobbit. It looks really weird. Well, let's get this bullshit out of the way. The comparison of The Hobbit to a video game doesn't work. The Hobbit is a fucking movie, so the frame rate doesn't need to be high. You don't interact with the thing, so you can't feel input lag, and natural motion blur helps with the movement. And the only reason it looked weird is because every other movie runs at 24 frames per second, you fucking tool. In a video game, you can feel input lag at a lower frame rate, which is bad and not desirable at all. Some games have motion blur, but it's still not great, and it still looks choppy, you dipshit. And the reason it looks choppy is because our eyes can detect it. So 60 FPS is actually more realistic than 30 FPS, because we see it all the time. Oh, but there's more. So I think collectively in the video game industry, we're dropping the standard because it's hard to achieve. It's twice as hard as 30 FPS, and it's not really that great in terms of rendering quality or the picture of the image. God damn it! Let's address this nonsense. You aren't dropping your frame rate because 30 FPS is hard to achieve as opposed to 60 FPS. That's bullshit. You're dropping the frame rate to get better graphics out of a game to market to the general populace. A game that runs at 60 FPS can't be marketed that way online or on TV. So you just don't do it, even though it means your game will run worse and play worse. Either that, or you're just incredibly lazy. It can't be that hard. Most games ran at 60 FPS on the PS2. You didn't have trouble back then, even though the PS2 was weaker and running on different architecture to the PS4. Also, what is this bullshit about looking worse? You can tell the fucking difference between 30 and 60 FPS. And I'll tell you right now, in motion, 60 FPS looks better. It feels smooth and responsive. Again, it's a game. It doesn't have natural motion blur. So shit will look more choppy because they're just putting pictures on the screen. Here comes a fucking punchline though. 30 FPS was our goal with Assassin's Creed Unity. It feels more cinematic. Apparently 60 FPS isn't cinematic according to this fucker. But 30, oh that's cinematic. You know for sure. And you can trust it because it's coming from some dipshit at Ubisoft. 60 is really good for a shooter. Action adventure, not so much. I mean, what the fuck? It actually feels better for people when it's at 30 FPS. No, it doesn't. I do not understand at all why every single developer keeps saying 30 FPS is cinematic. I don't give a fuck what you think about cinematic feel if the game actually plays worse as a result. It's such a bad excuse. Your game is not a movie, it's a video game that you play. So the gameplay needs to come first, before presentation. It's a video game that you play, which means that the gameplay matters. Also, 60 FPS is important for all action games. Any game that requires rapid inputs and quick responses should be 60 FPS, which includes Assassin's Creed, Nicholas. In no way whatsoever does it feel better at 30 FPS. No game feels better at 30 FPS than 60 FPS, except for maybe 1 or 2 games. It just doesn't fucking happen. To wrap up, our friend Nicholas has one last thing to say. It's like when people start asking about resolution. Is it the number of the quality of the pixels you want? If the game looks gorgeous, who cares about the number? Well, in your case, the numbers matter since you gimped the PS4 version of Assassin's Creed Unity just to avoid debate, which is fucking stupid because not only are you screwing the consumer over, but you sparked more debate. And then when you go back on your bullshit, it makes things worse. Ubisoft, you are so stupid, it borders on fucking maniacal. Just stop talking. You're like Cliffy B. Every time you talk, something fucking retarded comes out.